Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to PwC's Risk and Regulation News channel. Today we are going to do again a deep dive into ECB's SSM priorities for the years 2024 and beyond. And as we did already in the videos before, making a deep dive on DORA, operational resilience, ESG, we have picked another topic which is one of the most important priorities for the ECB. It's ALM and interest rate risk in the banking book and liquidity risk. And usually I have guests in this channel, but this time I am the guest because for the first time I'm in the Madrid office in Spain, and I have two colleagues here with me. One, Álvaro Benzo, he's the leader of the Governance, Risk and Compliance department here in PwC Spain. And I have Pablo here with me. He's a director and an expert on asset and liability management and interest rate risk in the banking book. Álvaro, Pablo, how are you?
We're fine, thank you. Welcome to Madrid, Martin.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah? It's great to have you. I hope you feel at home since you're half Spanish.
Yeah, of course. It's wonderful to be here, especially the weather is much better than in Frankfurt. Yeah.
I'm very happy to discuss with you the ALM strategy, and I hope you enjoy your stay here in Madrid.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, Pablo, to you, the first question. Asset and liability management, interest rate risk in the banking book, liquidity risk management, a very important priority of the ECB. But for our viewers who are maybe not so familiar with this topic, could you please give us a first overview? What is it about and why is it a priority for the ECB?
Yeah, sure, Martin. ALM risk management is a set of techniques and practice that financial institutions use to mitigate financial risks resulting from a mismatch of assets and liabilities regarding also interest rate and also liquidity terms. Asset liability management or framework includes many factors and metrics, including, for example, strategic asset allocation or identification of several sub-risks, and also developing behavioral models to understand how client behavior and actions affects on this mismatching of cash flows. And successfully managing this matching of asset against liabilities allows financial institutions to maximize their investment returns and also increase their profitability.
Great. Thank you very much for giving us this first overview. Álvaro, next question into your direction. In the end, all these ECB priorities and also the results from the SREP report indicate into the direction that the ECB wants to increase the resilience of banks because there are some threats coming from the geopolitical situation, but also the macro-financial situation. Can you please give us some insights on that, please?
Absolutely, thank you, Martin. Well, we can see from the 2023 SREP results what the concerns of the supervisor clearly are. It's important to note that from the end of 2022, we've seen an unprecedented increase in interest rates, and this, coupled with the high inflation environment, is generating a certain stress in the balance sheet of banks. This macroeconomic environment actually was the cause of the financial crisis episodes we saw in the US first, and then also in Swiss banks. The ECB is concerned about the possible spread of such episodes to banks in the Eurozone. We believe that Eurozone banks are very resilient. We can see from the recent results of the banks that actually the high interest rate environment is helping boost their profitability, their margins, particularly in countries with variable rate loan portfolios. However, this situation is not sustainable from the point of view of profitability. Banks understand that their margins will decrease, and therefore they need to start preparing for that. And also, very importantly, we've seen a certain deleveraging process. The high interest rate environment has also forced banks to deleverage to some extent, and we've seen a reduction in total assets, which is also obviously weighing on their results as well. And finally, there is a big concern with liquidity risk due to market volatility and geopolitical instability. As a result of all of this, the ECB has increased supervisory pressure on all of the banks, particularly in the ALM space, and we can see from their supervisory examination program that they are putting a lot of focus on this through targeted reviews in liquidity, in recovery plans, ALM strategies, but also on specific on-site inspections on interest rate risk first, and now we are seeing combined on-site inspections both for interest rate risk and liquidity and funding in the banks.
Great, thank you very much, Alvaro. You mentioned that the supervisors like the ECB, but also the national competent authorities, they increase the pressure on these topics: asset liability management, interest rate risk in the banking book, liquidity risk. Maybe, Pablo, that's a question more in your direction. Could you give us some examples how we see how the regulators and supervisors increase the pressures, how they do it?
Yeah, they deploy a supervisory toolkit, as we like to say, and these supervisory toolkits have these three layers. We like to say that 3 layers, like a pyramid, and the first, the ground floor, and of that pyramid is also the guidelines that was published at the end of the 2022. And includes a new risk, spread risk in the banking book, okay, and that came into force in December of the 2023, and it's a new risk, and this is a new risk that requires implementing quantification methodologies and also requires integrating those metrics into the management and correctly identify the perimeter of the assets and liability that are affected too. This is a hot topic here in the industry, in the Eurobank zone. And another critical issue is the new reporting templates. Okay, that we have a new reporting templates that will enter in force at the end of the year, this year. But the supervisor requests an early adoption, an early submission to the financial institutions, because these reporting templates should be mandatory, but also have a great disclosure of the metrics and greater disclosure of granular details about behavioral models. That is one of the important topic, and also how the behavioral model affects to those metrics. Okay. And there is also a second block of these supervisory toolkits, that is the regulatory technical standards that was published also at the end of the 2022. One of them is the supervisory outlier test that changed in a separate document. They separate the supervisory outlier test from the guidelines to an special regulatory technical standards. And the major change is that they introduce the large decline on net interest rate, the large threshold to detect the large decline in the net interest income that is set out at 5%. Okay, and if any breach of this limit, of course, the competent authorities could exercise all their supervisory powers. So this threshold is the entities is paying so much attention to this threshold right now today, and also we are waiting for the new interest rates scenario, the new shocks on interest rates that the Basel Committee published at the end of the 2023. And it's more severe scenarios, so they comprise all the rising interest rate recently, that we have seen recently, and also there are another regulatory technical standard that published at the of course at the end of the 2022, and is the standard approach that presents a simplified methodology and more conservative methodology to calculate impacts of on the value economic of equity and the net interest income primarily for the small and non-complex institutions, but also for those institutions whose internal model is not satisfactory under supervisory criteria. Okay, and the final block is the inspections, as Alvaro says previously. And there are two types of supervisory activity plans. The one of the first one is the targeted review. Okay, the targeted review is focused on the ALM strategy and governance, and also on liquidity aspects. Okay, but they are the level of demand is high. That we believe that we are working with entities here in Spain, and I could say that the level of demand is high, and there are so many requirements that also include hypothetical cases that require calculation under certain scenarios that the supervisor gives to you, and also the on-site inspections. There is a campaign on interest rate risk in the banking book, and also on liquidity and funding plans. But we also have the opportunity to see that there are some banks that have both on-site inspection, the liquidity and interest rate risks simultaneously. So the pressure is quite high.
I can imagine that. Yeah, with the interest rate risk in the banking book, it's like a kind of never-ending story, because at least as long I'm working with Basel regulatory requirements, they always start discussing about should interest rate risk in the banking book not be included in Pillar 1 capital requirements. And whenever there's a new reform, Basel II, Basel III, now Basel IV, or the Basel III endgame, however you want to call it, it's always on the shelf again, and it's going to discuss. But it's always strongly supposed by some countries that have traditionally in their banks a lot of interest rate risk in the banking book. By the way, one of these countries is Germany, but they are weakening now. It's like last week in summer there was a press conference of the head of the German National Competent Authority, and he said like maybe now it's the time to think about moving it to Pillar 1. So we will see what the Basel Committee is going to say. Pablo,
some jurisdictions has already translate to move to the Pillar 1.
That's almost a standard already that the banks included in the SREP ratios, which is actually an increase of the Pillar 1 ratios. But you mentioned the on-site inspections. We in the SSM EBA office of PwC, we bring together all the competencies, all the knowledge and the experience from many on-site inspections where we support our clients from all types of countries here, from Spain, from the Netherlands, from the Nordic countries like Finland, Italy, and we try to really develop standards for our clients, for then we can prepare them and develop together with them the best standards for ALM altogether, but also especially with regard to liquidity risk and interest rate risk in the banking book. So great, thank you very much, Alvaro. Thank you very much, Pablo. So far, the regulators are not tired in publishing new requirements, especially on the topic of interest rate risk in the banking book. Also, the EBA just recently published a report, including one heat map on this topic. Maybe Pablo, you can say a few words about that.
That's right, Martin. The heat map published in January gives some clues about what will come in the coming months and years. And they separate in two blocks, one in the medium-term actions and another in the long-term actions. Okay, in the medium-term actions, the European Banking Authority focus on four main aspects for this medium term, and the most relevant ones from our point of view are behavioral models and Pillar 3. Regarding behavior model, it highlights the wide variety of models implemented in the industry, and they believe that they need to improve guidance on their assumptions and their use. Okay, of course, the most important model, behavior model, is the non-maturity deposit that has especially a high impact on their metrics. Okay, and regarding the disclosure on Pillar 3, the supervisory has observed that many entities use different scenarios lower than the regulatory ones, and also different modeling assumptions, and there is a lack of disclosure of qualitative aspect. So for sure they will work to enhance this scrutiny over the ALM process. Okay, and regarding the long term, it wants to address 3 specific elements, such as enhancing hedging strategies and the 5-year limit on the non-maturity deposits. Again, there is a cap, a model cap, and they want to analyze the unintended effects of this cap, okay, of this limit. And finally, improving the credit spread risk in the banking book framework. That is right now a hot topic, as I mentioned before.
Thank you very much, Pablo. Thank you very much, Alvaro, for these really valuable insights on the topic of ALM, interest rate risk in the banking book, and liquidity risk. Maybe with regard to liquidity risk, one latest rumor that I heard is that the Basel Committee is working on a new LCR, also because of the lessons learned from the crisis in the US in last year. So there might be a 3-fold LCR, one with a 1-day stress horizon, 10-day stress horizon, and the old 30-day stress horizon, but of course with completely remodeled outflows and inflows on liquidity.
That's very interesting.
So it's going to be very exciting in the next months and years. The topic is still not over, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are more than happy to support you on all your challenges around ALM, interest rate risk in the banking book, and liquidity risk. Thanks again, Pablo.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Alvaro. It was a pleasure to be here in Madrid. I will definitely come back as soon as possible.
The pleasure
Thank you
is
very much.
ours. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.